pain, injury, humiliation, or ridicule, or other personal or financial damage, and even if the information disseminated is partially or completely false. Okay, you know what? He signed it and had it notarized. And he's right here. And we have good, and he's not going to have a heart attack. Here's what we did and didn't do. We spent a morning, that's it. From breakfast to a late lunch. No field investigation whatsoever. I didn't send people out there. We didn't do interviews. We didn't do garbology, you know, stealing his trash, which, by the way, is an unbelievable investigative technique. We didn't do pretext. We didn't call up his family and say we're calling from the hospital and, you know, Rick's laying on a gurney who's his medical insurance company or any of that good stuff. We didn't use any government databases. We used what is available to civilians. I mean, well-connected civilians, but civilians. We use Gorilla Trace. We use Diogenes. We use something under development called OINK. We started with the phone number. We got his name. We got his social security number. We got his date of birth. We got where he worked. We then took the social security number and ran that. And we got every name and every address associated with it, and this, by the way, is a routine thing for investigators. It costs $1 to do. And we got every address he ever lived at, including a guy who was the name of a guy, Jeffrey Stanford, who was using his social security number. More information and more information and more information and addresses. In less than 5 minutes, we found his complete name, social security number, when he got it, where he got it, somebody else using it, date of birth, the addresses. Then we pulled Rick's credit report, which he signed a waiver for. And we got everywhere he banks and how much money he makes and all the employers he's ever shown and how quickly he pays his bills. And he pays them pretty damn quickly, which is good to know because he's taking me to dinner tonight. And we found out that he's shown as a property owner at his address. And we pulled the property record and we pulled the property appraiser record, which said $89,000. And we figured, no way, you know, not even in this economy. And we went to Zwillow, which is even better, and they gave us an appraisal of $174,284. And then we decided to take a look at the property, again, without leaving the desk. So we went, we got closer, and we got closer, and we got closer, and Rick was looking up at the saddle. That's actually the photo that we got off of his MySpace page. So that was legitimately obtained, and we found out what his apartment is like. And he lives in Florida, and remember that big parking lot. There's no public transportation, big parking lot. So we pulled his car and what he drives and who his insurance carrier is, and running the condo address through Business Finder America, we got his company. And we ran him through Gorilla Trace, and we got 43 pages of stuff, every profile, every blog, every MySpace page. We pulled him through Zoom Info, everywhere he ever worked, what he did at those places. We found, now there's something called Domain Finder where you can put in a name or an address. We found out he had a domain called Pornophiliac, which was not up at the time, and stop right there because I've heard all the jokes about getting it back up. And we found rickdakin.com and bluekingstudios.com, and we went to the Wayback Machine, which is a great friend for investigators, and we found every single post and all the previous incarnations of his websites, and we found his Amazon.com author bio, which had everything he wrote and where he hangs out, and even, where the heck is it? Even where he has coffee for breakfast. Well, then it was accurate. This is 2 years old, by the way. And we found the books that he wrote, and we found, God bless him, one of the most comprehensive MySpace pages ever put up. Photos, 27 friends. Everywhere he went to school, the school for the terminally whatever, and American University, and that he's in the middle of his master's program, and his companies, and for job he writes, I own the damn thing, thank you very much. And that he's single, he's an Aquarius, He's a graduate student. He's an author. You know, what he's written, music, television, Rick's resume, which we found by going into a hidden directory, but that was fair. That his latest book is Geek Mafia. We found, I mean, how hard is it to interpret a web posting saying up is downism and homophobic hate, Bush and Republicans are assholes? He's probably a Democrat. Actually, we found out after reading an endless supply of posts, I mean, this guy must carry a laptop with him. He's actually an anarchist, and that he didn't register his car for 6 months and he got in trouble. And these are the podcasts that he downloads, so we know he's a lefty. And he listens to Air America, and we found one hilarious post called, "Can't sleep, clown will eat me." So we know that he's either a Simpsons fan or he spent too much time in Hungary, or as a kid he was frightened by a guy with a big red nose. And we found photos, which I have to tell you, the holy grail of investigators. If I'm going after you, I want to know what you look like. I had more photos. Here he is, by the way, lockpicking at a previous con. And all of his friends, who they are, where they live, they own cats, they're black belts. One's a literature professor. One is involved with Ringling School of Art and Design. Real place, by the way. I thought it was a joke. I mean, all of his friends. We find his parents, where they live, that he's got no felonies or serious lawsuits. We found his cell phone and traced that. And then we went into the marketing databases and we found out he likes Mexican food and Thai food. He used to go to this place near Cryptic Studios called Hobie's or Hobbies? Hobie's, and he used to eat there a lot. They had a sandwich called the Rick, not really, but almost. And then one moment of confusion. We find there's going to be a launch party for his book, Geek Mafia, which he had just written at that point. Good book, and we're going to be giving it out for free in about 2 minutes. And I find this guy. That is you? Okay. Is that you? Okay, but it sure looks like him. A freakish resemblance, like separated at birth. But one is Rick Dakin and the other is Kyle Cross. And Rick had said, well, you might find some interesting things out about me, and one thing in particular. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I told you about it. But maybe, aha, an alias, another life. But then I ran Kyle Cross, and I found out that when Rick was in California, Kyle Cross was in Washington, was in Florida, and it wasn't him. So, to summarize, in 4.5 hours, Rick's name, address, everywhere he ever lived, everywhere he ever worked, all of his friends, his religion, his sexual orientation, his date of birth, his social security number, his freaking astrological sign, basically everything he does, everything he likes, whatever. Real world example on Rick. I always wanted to say this, but wait, there's more. After Rick and I did this, we got to be friends, mainly because he figured he better be my friend. I know everything about him. But we really did get to be good friends, and we started talking about doing a project together. And Rick called me up, and he said, I got a great idea. You know, when we meet, I'm going to talk to you about it. And he says, let's do a book where you investigate me. I try to stop you. But we have to do it differently since you've heard. And we tossed it around, and we figured out, and if you know me and Rick, this is even going to be funnier, but even if you don't, we made a bet. The bet is Rick tries to hide. I try to find him. I mean, actually find him. You are at this location right now, or tag you're it, or that sort of thing. If Rick can stay hidden for 60 days, he wins. And I have to vote straight Democrat in the next election. And trust me, you would see on Google News, private investigator jumps off bridge before that happens. If Rick stays hidden for 60 days, he wins. If I can find him 10 times, in the year, I win. And he has to vote straight Republican. And you would basically see novelist jumps off bridge before that happens. So we made this bet, and Rick, and this really happened. We put a year into this. We're done. We put a, huh? Right. We finished, when did I come back from Belize? When was the Church of Cthulhu thing? No, I'll explain that. No, I'll explain that in a second. When was that? Okay, we finished in December. Right. So what happened is he really tried to hide. He got offshore bank accounts and credit cards and phony names and stayed. I mean, it was his excuse for staying with every girl he ever met. But he got a fake place and he started dealing. I mean, dropped phones and everything. I mean, he really tried. And I caught him pretty easily a couple of times. And I'll tell you about some of the busts. We wrote a book about it, by the way, called Stealing Your Own Identity. There's a website up, and you can register for the book, and we'll give you autographed copies if you register. And yes, I am shilling this, and I've never done this before, but if I stood here till midnight, I couldn't cover all the stuff. So yeah, there's really a reason for the book. And here's some of the busts I did. And by the way, we called a truce after the 9th bust, so we can both vote our consciences and basically cancel each other out, I'm sure. So the truth is, we should probably, go out for dinner on election day and not even bother. And then I'll sneak out and vote, but never mind. So here's what I did. Let me tell you about some of these busts. Rick is an author, and he sells a lot of his own books. He's got like a house full of books. And he services Amazon, and he services people who go to his website. So I set up a dummy email account. I started emailing him as a bookstore owner, as an obnoxious British bookstore owner. But in each of these things, I tried to be fair. And I called myself Rusty Shackelford. And he didn't know, because he's not a TV watcher, he didn't know who Rusty Shackelford is. He doesn't know that's the Prince of Paranoia from King of the Hill. So, oh boy. So I started emailing him, and he started emailing me back. So I can't get your books, you're not responding, I'm going to cancel this order and go with somebody else. And he started emailing, I'm sorry, Mr. Shackelford. And finally, I got an email from him. We had an alert that would send it right to my cell phone. And it didn't matter. I was sitting in my office when he responded. He was eating breakfast in a Panera cafe, and he logged in from Panera. And I got the IP address, and it was a traceable IP address. And I didn't have anybody in the area, so I couldn't really do tag you're it. And he was 1,000 miles away in Florida. I was in New York. So I got the phone number of Panera. I said, this is an investigator. It's urgent. Get me the store manager. This is an honest-to-God true story. I've got an MP3 file of the call, and it's going up on the website. Everything I'm telling you about will be proven. So I said, sir, my name is Steve Rambam. I'm an investigator. All true. I didn't lie. I urgently need to reach a guy who's in your store. He's about 250 pounds. He's bald. His name is Rick Dakin. He said, well, we know Rick. He's a local author. I said, look, you've got to get him to the phone. So I hear the manager going, Rick Dakin to the manager's office. And you'll be able to hear this. And Rick goes, yeah, hello. And I said, Rick, you're busted. That's number one. Okay, number two, cell phone triangulation. Except for this one, I had my friend Harry Goldstein, who's an investigator, in the area. We knew he was somewhere in Sarasota, Bradenton. We didn't know where. We were able to trace his car to a parking lot. At 10 o'clock at night, by the way, in a mini mall, and we knew there were only one of 3 stores open. So I said, Harry, go to this particular mini mall. And his car is really easy to spot, by the way. First of all, we knew the license plate. And second of all, it's got a big Geek Mafia sticker on the back. So Harry says, yeah, it's parked in front of this bar. What was it called? Jake's place. Shakespeare's, right. Parked in front of Shakespeare's. And I said, okay, tell me what's parked next to it. He says, okay, there's a red Ferrari next to it and this and that. So I called up Rick on his cell phone, which was fair. Oh, I called